Hello everybody, my name is Angel. Welcome to Lupus Fitness 333. Today is Philosophy Talks number 13. Today's philosophy talk is facing the shadow. Now, the shadow, the way I understand it, is basically there are sides to you that you may or may not be aware of. Usually they come out in times of stress or in times of, fear or something like that, or in arguments. Usually, I know for me it comes out in arguments, but basically there's sides of you that you truly don't flex or you don't practice as much because in most cases it's a reactionary thing. But for the video's sake, let's just say there are parts of you that you're not very proud of, and there are some people who just choose to ignore it, and then there's some people who are aware of it and either don't care to change it or don't know how to change it. Okay? How does this apply to what we're trying to do in this channel? Okay. The way it applies to people with life-altering and life-changing diseases is simply because, as far as for lupus can be a stress-induced disease. Now for me, my personal experience is that it was induced due to high levels of stress. At the time, I was in the restaurant business. When I was young, when I was like 14, maybe 15, my big brother was in the restaurant business and he excelled in it. And for some reason, looking at him, it looked amazing. It looked, fun, because he had to deal with a lot of personalities. Some were fun, some were not so fun. At the time, I thought it was like the joy of the spontaneity of the business, and the food. Of course, the food was great. He worked at a French restaurant, but my experience was not that. When I finally got a chance to get into the restaurant business, I worked in Beverly Hills. Now, every restaurant has a rush hour, okay? But Beverly Hills rush hour in California was hectic, all right? And I'm not going to say what I did, but it tested me. It tested my mettle for sure. And I was not up for it. Maybe because when I was younger, I was sheltered on the chaos of that business. And so I went in there with rose-colored glasses. Anyways, the stress had got to me to the point where I was not properly eating because the food wasn't good. I didn't like the food. It was Indian food. But eventually I ended up getting used to it, but I still don't like it to this day. I had to learn how to cook it. I had to learn how to make the bread, all that stuff. But again, not getting to do too many details. Eventually I got hurt. And I was afraid of losing my job because at the time I had lost a job previously to that was paying me more than what I was getting paid at the restaurant. And so I was under the stress of having to work in this industry that I no longer liked, and I had to be able to pay my rent. So that was a thing that was constantly in my mind. And so it just kept on piling on. It didn't get any better, it just got worse. Whether I was not able to understand the position that I was in, or I guess for the lack of a better word, I was crazy, or insane, because I was doing the same thing expecting a different result. There were people who were helping me, but their help only went so far, It was only for the day. Eventually, the injury that I got stressed my body out so much that I ended up contracting lupus. And at the time, I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was, and I thought, you had to take like some kind of pill, maybe rest a few days, and I'll be all right. It didn't dawn on me until after I was diagnosed, maybe like a month or two in, where I was really, really not able to do certain things anymore. You understand? So I'll just leave it there. how that relates to what we're talking about as facing the shadows. Okay, this could have all been stopped if I had just stood up for myself, or had just raised a concern for my injury, you understand? Meaning, if I had gone to management or someone and say, hey, this happened to me, I need help, please don't fire me or something like that, I want to work, I just don't know how to go about this without sounding like I don't want to work. That's what I was going through at the time. My insecurity and my fear-based mentality got me to that point. Because again, I was raised in an area, or I was raised in a family where you don't complain. Complaining means you're lazy, you don't want to do anything. You just don't want to do the work, period. So you had to suck it up and just do whatever you had to do. And that's how I did it. It ended up hurting me more than it actually benefited me. And it changed my whole outlook on how I should work. But that's the shadow. The shadow was that I was insecure about my standing in the restaurant or in the job, and my fear was the other shadow. Was that my fear of speaking up or being looked at a certain way because I was going to be a nuisance for, being the squeaking wheel, when obviously I was taught wrong. I should have not thought that way at the time. Anyways, another thing could be unresolved issues that's facing the shadows. Let's say something happened to you when you were younger, and because you never resolved it, it turns out to be something else in your life. It shows up. Like, not to say anything specific about people. I know not for me. Well, certain things. So I just gave you an example. But what I'm saying is that, like, let's say something happened, like you got in a car crash or something, and now you're afraid of cars, or you don't express that, but you hold on to this thing. You hold on to a negative feeling or a negative experience, and it rules you. That is also you. That's a shadow aspect of yourself that, again, you have to confront. Because it's like living in a house, and you have, let's say you have 6 rooms in the house, but you only go to 3. Why don't you go to the other 3? Label it for whatever it is. Trauma. You refuse to acknowledge that you're, I don't know, let's say a happy-go-lucky person, or an angry person, or a sad person, or you're a nervous person, or whatever it is. Let's say those doors represent that part of your personality. And it seems daunting just to go near the door, even though the door is within the house that you've bought, that you live in. And you're trying to ignore that side as if it doesn't exist. But there are other sides to that door that you may need. There are things and parts of you that you may need to maybe make the house more beautiful. Because by you ignoring that side gets darker, it gets dustier, it starts to look unpleasant, you understand? And maybe that's not a good analogy, but what I'm saying is that it doesn't look good on the outside as well either. Eventually, if you're going to be inviting people to your house, they're not going to know that you have a rule not to go into these doors, and you might react. And again, how that applies to life-altering and life-changing conditions or diseases is that sometimes it could be, the root of it is that you're not facing this thing, and so therefore it festers in your mind, it festers in the body, and then eventually it'll fester in the soul. And from the outside looking in, it looks easy. Hey, just do this, do that. And for you, it's terrifying, because what they see is like you jumping over a little crack, and you see that you have to fly over to the other mountain, and there's like oceans separating them. For you, it's like, what? I can't. I don't. How can you make it sound like it's so easy? Again, it's easy because they see it from the outside. We see it from the inside. Us ignoring it causes us to create oceans between the problem and what we really want. And the problem most of the time is not actually that big of a deal. We just make it that big of a deal. So another thing about facing the shadow is also learning how to handle stress. That's another part of it. Handling stress, learning ways to not only de-stress yourself, like to relax your body and your mind, which is why I incorporate exercises, not only to strengthen us, but again to strengthen your mind. With the mind and the body relaxed, the soul, right? The soul will follow. Why? Because the mind is relaxed, the body is relaxed. Why the body is relaxed? Because you exhausted. And so therefore the mind has to accept that the body is kind of relaxed. It's not, it requires more effort for you to do something with it. And so the mind has to accept that. And so therefore the body will release endorphins and kind of put your mind at ease and be like, all right, let's take a rest, let's think about what's going on. You understand? And that little chain, that little domino effect helps your soul relax and give you the answers that you may need for certain situations that mentally at the time you were not able to come up with. You understand? Like we've talked about it in the other previous philosophical talk, reaching Zen. You want to reach a Zen, a point of where everything is just calm. It's now everything's in sync, and you'll get the very answers you were searching for. But you can't do it by forcing it. You understand? It just doesn't work that way. It won't come out well. It'll come out, you know. The problem with that is that things will go wrong. You understand? And that's where you have to learn how to roll with the punches, but still go towards the goal. Anyways, facing the shadow is the mental frontier that cannot be ignored by all of us. And none of us could do that. None of us, at this point, if we're already with a condition that is going to alter or change our life forever, then that's the first place we got to look at, man. We can't ignore that. It's at this point it can't afford that. You can't afford that, because if you continue the practice that you probably got you in there in the first place, that's, for example, let me just clarify, that's if it was induced by stress or by an event that you just couldn't let go or you didn't want to resolve within yourself. If it's a genetic condition, that's different. Then our mental journey is completely different. It's about fortifying and creating a new personality that helps us, accept it and move forward in a happy way or optimistic way that's still rooted in reality. But for those who are stress induced, it's usually a mental battle that has been avoided for too long. And it's now or never, because again, just like with me, my condition, if for any reason I fall off, it could take my life. You understand? And I don't want to live with that fear. I do want to accept and acknowledge that it could happen. But I also want to come to terms that it could happen, and I should make my life with purpose. I should always have a purpose, and always think not just of myself, but think of the people whose lives I would affect if I hadn't done something that would profoundly change their life in a positive way. Because I want my family, this is for me, my purpose. I want my family to see that I did it regardless of my condition. Whereas the doctors and all that would tell me, oh, just take it easy. Oh, you can't stress yourself out. That wasn't a solution for me. You understand? Because you can't ask life to be like, hey, take it easy on me because I have this condition. Nobody cares. And this is not that channel. This is a channel that's telling you to, hey, buck up, get stronger in every way that you can, because life in a, how do I say it? How can I say it without sounding mean? Life is not going to give you an easier path just because you were dealt a bad card. So instead of looking at it from that perspective, sorry about that. Instead of looking at it from that perspective, try to use the hand that you were dealt with to your benefit. And that's it, man. It's an ongoing battle that we have to constantly be open to adapting and changing. All right? It's not going to be an easy path for us, man. If it's not easy for people who are able-bodied and are healthy, now think about us. We have to try maybe 2 to 3 times harder. What a normal person could do, we'd have to put in a few years of effort to be able to do that and be, for us, we know what we went through. But for them, it's just like, yeah, you should be able to do that. You understand? So we got to put in twice. This path requires us to be disciplined. And we have to be disciplined with what we eat, with what we do, how we handle things. Why? Because, again, one small slip up can cost us a lot. And I don't want that. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for you guys. So we have to face those sides of us that can hinder us in our progress. And when it comes to self-improvement, you're going to come across those a lot. And you have to go to the right people. And sometimes the right people are not around there. That's why I'm also creating this channel. But I will always do my best to show up, to do one of these videos, to explore more of these aspects of this type of lifestyle. Well, it's not really a lifestyle. It's more like a forced lifestyle, but we have to make it our own, you understand? And not only the physical aspect, but the mental aspect. And then eventually we'll touch more on the spiritual. But right now, your mind has to be fixed on being adaptable. I know that sounds kind of contradictory, but fixed on being able to change and adapt, because these conditions will make you pay for it if you don't. You understand? Now, I'm not saying change every day, but I am saying to improve on what is happening to you that will benefit you and those around you, and change something that's not helping you. That's what I mean by change. If it's not helping you and other people, it has to be both. It can't just be one or the other, you understand? It has to help you and other people. It has to be a win-win for everybody. Because if it's a win for you and a loss for somebody else, that's going to be bad. That's going to be something that you have to deal with later on. It might add unnecessary stress that you don't want either. So think about what is it that you have a problem with, and try to find a way to tackle it, strategically. Try to give yourself 2 or 3 things to help you overcome that, to help you face those sides of you that may be unpleasant to you, and possibly that they're unpleasant to other people, or you hide from other people. Understand? This is critical for people with our conditions, because once we resolve it, we get closer to accepting ourselves and feeling better about our condition, and we no longer see it as a burden. You come to the level where you're like, it's a gift in disguise, because it's teaching me to become the best version of myself, all the time. And it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. You're climbing a mountain shrouded in glass. Most people won't do it. You have no choice. Again, thank you for listening to Philosophical Talks number 13, Facing the Shadows. My name is Angel. Thank you for watching. This is Lupus Fitness 333. Bye.